Okay, Pierre, thanks for spending some time coming on the podcast. I know you're down. Are you down in Atlanta?
Yes.
Right. Okay. Um, so we talked before this about what you do and what you are, but I'd like to go back because I know you're a Brooklyn kid, right? You grew up here, and your story is very compelling. So maybe we can go back to when you were in middle school and high school and things you went through and kind of what got you where you are, and then we'll talk about Fleeting because I think it's a fantastic business. So why don't we start back there? Okay.
Sure. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, man. For me, it's a very interesting story. Was born and raised in Haiti. Came here when I was 15 years old.
Okay. You speak English?
No, none at all.
None English. Okay.
At all. But I came here with a dream of becoming a doctor. I wanted to become a neurologist since a kid. I was kind of fascinated with the brain.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, where I landed in Brooklyn, I would like to say it was the rotten part of the apple. It wasn't that picture that I was seeing in America when I was in Haiti.
Right.
So, I came here 1997, and around that time, that's when Brooklyn was pretty rough.
Yeah, right. It's come a long way since then, yeah.
Yep. And it was really tough growing up in Brooklyn, and quickly I went from dreaming of being a doctor to dreaming, okay, well, how do I stay alive here?
Right.
Am I going to even be alive to graduate to become a doctor? So I really started thinking ways to really improve myself and really just kind of leave out that community. Because the one thing for me was I didn't want to become a statistic. I didn't want to become a product of that environment because I saw how easy it was to get caught up in the everyday cycle living in those communities.
Sure.
I was trying to think, what can I do to get out of here? And luckily, trucking came up to mind. I said, well, maybe I could just get in a truck.
That's like popped into your head. You're like, oh, maybe I could drive a truck. How old were you at this point?
At this time, I was 17, going on 18.
Okay, so you're getting close to being an adult where you could do
Correct.
that stuff.
Yeah.
Now, I think it's funny. A lot of people don't realize, not funny, but a lot of people now, 98 was a long time ago. They see Brooklyn now at DeKalb Market and, the different sections of Dumbo and Greenpoint and all that type of stuff. And they're like, wow, Brooklyn's hot. They don't realize what it was back then,
know.
right?
I don't think they know, and I don't think they want to know.
Yeah, maybe they don't want to know. And then the Barclays Center came in and really revitalized the area and everything like that. So I guess, everything comes around, but you were there then and you had to deal with what was going on then, right?
What was going on then, yes. And that really, once again, forces me to really think, to be on my toes. Once again, the fear of being mediocre, the fear of being a statistic really pushed me to keep thinking. So I did go to college. I studied electrical engineering for about a year.
Okay.
And due to financial hardship, I had to drop out. When I came here, it was me, my mom's, and my other 4 siblings. My dad wasn't really around, so I had to really quickly become the man of the family.
So that's when you thought about the trucking? Were you doing trucking while you're going to school, or?
No, I did. I was always thinking about the trucking, while I was living in that community. But one thing that really did it for me, honestly, I didn't say, was that after I graduated high school, my uncle took me on a cruise, and that cruise changed my entire perception. That's when I really realized the world did not revolve around the shitty community that I lived in at the time.
Right, there was a world out there.
Absolutely. The world had
you had forgotten about Haiti, right?
Absolutely. So now I said to myself, after that cruise, another thing that stuck in my head was, okay, how can I live this life every day? How can I be somewhere nice? And I knew that I had to put some work to get
So
there.
you picked something that would get you on the road and get you around at least the country.
Yep.
Okay. Because was your uncle said, oh, go into trucking? No, it was your idea.
No, that was my idea. And growing up as a Haitian family, to be honest with you, they're very strict when it comes to education, right?
Sure.
The Haitian household, if you're not a doctor, if you're not a nurse, if you're not an attorney, you're pretty much a loser.
Yeah. So, look, I grew up in the Jewish community. It's the same thing. If you're not a lawyer or a doctor, you're a loser. Get away.
Get away. Exactly.
My son, the business owner, owns a multi-million-dollar company. He's a failure. He's not a doctor or a lawyer. Right.
That was the thing.
Ethnic community, sure.
Yeah, and it was hard for me to make that decision because I know my mom was going to be hurt. My family was going to feel some type of way. But for me, it was much more like that was the best thing for me to do. Is like, okay, yes, I could still go to school, but are you going to take me out of that community? Because there was a strong possibility on my way to school, I'll probably get killed, right?
Really?
On my way from the store, I'll probably get killed. And
you just wanted to get the hell out of it.
I just wanted to get the hell out, man.
Yeah.
And I went to college to study electrical engineering for about a year.
Okay.
Due to financial hardship, I had to drop out. It was just pretty much, my mom really couldn't give me much. My dad wasn't around. So I had to figure it out. So eventually I did drop out of college and got my CDL and become a truck driver.
Okay.
And I worked for XPO Logistics. At the time, it was called Conway Freight. Worked for them for about 2 years. Then I went on to work for Performance Food Group. Performance Food Group, I was doing food deliveries to local restaurants, schools, hospitals. And I started doing deliveries in the same school that I was going to, right? And
now, were those smaller trucks, like a box truck type of a thing, or?
It was
18
an
wheelers?
18-wheeler, yes. It
Okay,
was
wow. You
18-wheeler, and
drive
I
a
think
big
that's
truck.
where I got all my skills. Could you just imagine driving an 18-wheeler through Brooklyn? And that's where my route was
Oh,
at.
I can't even imagine driving it in an open field, let alone Brooklyn. And my wife's like, we should get a motorhome. Shows me these motorhomes. Forget about the fact that they're $1 million, right? I'm like, honey, that's like driving a building. I
Yes,
mean, they're enormous. So I can't imagine what you went through. And plus you have no driving experience. You're a
none,
new driver, basically.
pretty much. I was my third year of driving, and
Okay. So that's like no experience.
none at all, pretty
Right.
much. I mean, it's experience for open field, but not driving through
Right.
Brooklyn.
And being in a car, but not being an 18 wheeler. I couldn't do it now. I've been driving, since I was
Yeah.
little. So, okay.
Yeah, so I
So,
started
but
doing
you said that you went back and you had to drive and deliver to your school. So what happened there? You had told me
Yeah, I
before.
was really somewhat ashamed, embarrassed about it. Didn't want my friends to see me, didn't want my, old professors to see me. So I used to kind of really rush in and trying to get the delivery as fast as I can. And one day, as I was really rushing out the hallway with the hand truck in my hand, I ran into my professor. He's like, Pierre, is that you? Like, what's the matter? Why are you walking so fast?
This is the college you dropped out of, or your high school?
The college I dropped out of.
Okay. Okay.
I graduated high school, but it was the college that I dropped out of. And
Got it.
my
Okay.
professor's like, Pierre, what's the matter? Like, I said, well, I dropped out of school to be a trucker. I didn't want nobody to think I was a loser. He said, loser, how much are you making a year? At the time, I was making $94K a year. He said, what? He said, man, look, half of these
Nobody
kids
there's
are
making
gonna
that money.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, half of these kids is going to graduate and not going to see 94K. So I want you to own it, be prideful, and be the best trucker you can be.
Good
and
advice.
That really resonated with me. And a year later, I purchased my own truck and became an owner operator. Even prior to me purchasing my first truck, one thing I was kind of really, really on is financial literacy, right? How do I build wealth? So I learned how to trade on my own while I was driving performance food.
Right.
I think there was a year I made about 47 grand in trading stocks.
Wow.
So I used that money and purchased.
Yeah, but you were hungry for it and you wanted to get out, and there's so much information out there. I mean, you could teach yourself a lot of stuff. And you instead of just blowing your money and having fun, you were like, no, I'm going to make some of myself. So yeah.
And exactly, and that's what I've learned. What you just said is very true, is that, so much information out there. And I just always say, with more information, I can always make the best decision, right? So I became an information junkie. So I really started digging
That's a
everywhere.
good thing. I would say, listen, if you're on the road all the time, turn your truck into a university on wheels. There's stuff you can listen to, download, right? I don't mean to get off the track, but so you said you've eventually bought your own truck. That's just the cab, right? Because the box is something you're picking up from somebody, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So and it's got a sleeper in it and everything, like you're on the road.
In it and everything.
Your house, basically.
Pretty much. I had everything in that truck. I had a fridge, I had a microwave and TV on that truck.
It's kind of fun,
and,
right?
It was really fun. And I kind of see that I end up really, really growing a passion for trucking, right? I realized I thought I was doing it to escape my community, but it turned out to be a true passion. It turned out to be something that I truly enjoy doing.
Right.
And really learned a lot being an owner operator. And the difference is when you're a truck driver, you work for a trucking company, you just show up to work, they give you the paperwork, you get the job done, and you return the truck back.
Right.
Now, when you're an owner operator, it's a different monster, right? You have to pay
your own business, right?
You have to deal with maintenance. You have to fight with brokers to find good paying loads. It's a real tough world out there for guys that own their own truck. Although I did fairly well, I think within the 6 months again, I was able to move out of that community in Brooklyn and move to suburban New Jersey and West Orange, New Jersey.
Go really West Orange. My parents live in West Orange right now.
Yeah, pretty.
My cousins do too. Yeah.
I know Essex County and Jersey's they have their own little struggles, right? We talk about Newark, we talk about
Newark's a big drain on the county. That's the way it is. But Union's kind of like that with Elizabeth. I mean, when you get inner cities, there's a lot of resources that the cities take up. Every once in a while, Millburn Short Hills wants to break off from Essex County, and they're like, we can't do that. The whole county, like,
no, so, that's very true. And moved to that suburban area. Really felt good. Really learning a lot being an owner operator. Once again, I was so eager to get more information. What I did again, I parked my truck up for a couple months and went and took a course at Wagner College for supply chain logistics.
Sure.
Right?
Okay.
And that course was very informative also, but for me, it taught me trucking on a macro level. I was really eager to learn more on a micro level.
Right.
So I'm still looking ways to learn. So I went again and took a course to become a freight broker. Now, I never opened up a freight brokerage business simply because I've realized.
Is that what they call freight forwarding? Is that basically what brokerage is?
It's very similar to freight forwarders.
You're connecting the guy who's got the stuff with the guy who wants the stuff, right?
Yeah. So, the broker connect the shipper, which is the person that's actually on the goods, that's shipping the goods. They connect them with a driver that own a truck, or they connect them with a trucking company that has multiple trucks.
Right.
And I never opened up a brokerage firm because even me, when I was taking that class, I even got into a little argument with my instructor at the time because he said, well, Pierre, you know, I need you to take your trucker hat off and think like a broker. And for me, what I've realized is in broker, they're pretty much is, a lot of people may not agree with this, but the reality is brokers make money on truckers' ignorance, right? Truckers don't understand their unit economics.
Right.
They don't know how to
They're not business people, right? They don't have the training. They're not interested in learning it. Yeah.
None of that. So they're heavily dependent on brokers to get loads. So that didn't resonate well with me. And a few months
because these guys can take advantage of the truckers, really, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's again, like once again, I got into an argument with my instructor when he said, hey, look, Pierre, put your broker hat on. I don't want you to think like a trucker. So I said, well, hold up. I've been a trucker. I've been affected by all this thing that's happening. So are you telling me to now think like a broker so I could go out there and go do the same thing to truckers that struggle every day?
Right.
So it just didn't really resonate with
you. Wanted to think like a broker who's a good guy and not taking advantage of people.
Not taking advantage of people, because I realized the importance of truckers in this country, what they do and how hard they work. And brokers, I understand the value that they're bringing to the space from the early 80s. And for me, it was much more like brokers don't own any asset. Brokers don't have to get up out of their bed.
They're just salespeople, right? They're pass-throughs. Yeah.
So you have the driver that owned the truck that's getting up 4 or 5 in the morning, you know, busting his ass to work. But then you have another part, a third party or a middleman that sits in between that don't own no assets, that don't drive trucks, making a killing. And to me, that didn't resonate well with me. So a few months after that, I got into a car accident. Not in my truck. I had got into a car accident in a person in my car. And that really kind of put me out of work for about 11 months.
11 months? Oh, it was a serious accident.
Yes, I was out of commission for about 11 months.
What happened to you?
Well, I think it was a Memorial weekend. Me and my cousin, we was going to the beach. And when I'm talking about it was 11 in the morning. It's a hot day outside. There was this gentleman that was drunk that blew a stop sign. And
this going down to the Jersey Shore?
No, we was actually going to Long Island.
Oh, Long Island. Okay.
Yeah, so I was sitting in the back, and he had one of those old 1980 Buick, and I think we had a 2012 Nissan Maxima. So you know,
of course, I know what happens
with those fiber cars. So that tore up the car. It tore up my back. Was out of work for 11 months. Within 3 months, 4 months, kind of ran through my savings. Yeah. Right. I had a vehicle at the time, and I had 3 payments left on the car. The car got repo. Right. And
with 3 payments.
With 3 payments left, the bank took the car, and also my truck. I bought my truck, but I didn't buy it cash. I financed my truck.
Right, of course.
And within another 6 months, my truck got repo. Now I find myself right back again.
Yeah.
To that same shitty community in Brooklyn that I had left. Right. So I had no choice.
So you went back to Brooklyn where your family was?
Yes. I couldn't afford my rent.
Yeah, right.
In Jersey. So I had to go back.
Holy shit.
And it was sad. But that summer, I think that was in 2014. And I read a book called What the CEO Wants You to Know. Right.
Okay.
And that book also changed my perception of me in life. And my takeaway from that book was volume and profit margin. So I started thinking, I said, okay, well, I'm out of work now. What is it that I can sell? Even if I sell it for 5 cents, but if I could sell 1 million of them per month, I said I could make some money.
Yeah.
I wasn't that creative. I couldn't come up with anything to sell. But what was interesting was I was walking everywhere now since I didn't have a car. One thing I kept seeing was, you know, the glass from the beauty salon, the restaurants, the bars. And I would say to myself, I said, who's cleaning those glass?
The windows.
Yeah, those windows glass, right? I said, well, maybe if I get 100 customers and I charge them $10 per windows, I said, I could make $1,000 a week. I said, before you know it, I could get back on my feet. So I went and told a friend about it.
Well, you're one resilient, creative guy. I mean, most people would fall apart when they have 11 months. Now, at this point, you're recovered, right? Because
Yes. No, not fully recovered. This is pretty much still in pain, really just trying to find something. But at the same time, my daughter was 5 years old, right? It was okay. If it was just only me, it's fine. I could wait. But now I have a child to feed, right? So I have to think fast. I have to figure it out. And I went to a friend. I said, hey, look, man, I'm thinking about starting this window cleaning business. He looked at me and laughed. He was like, man, people are going to think you're a crackhead. I said, wow, why you say that? He said, look, man, you came here, you became a truck driver, you bought your own truck, you come back driving a nice car. Now another year later, you're coming back with nothing and you talking about you want a clean window. People are definitely going to think you've been blowing that money on drug. And
they don't know that you had an accident. Right. They have no idea.
They don't care. So
but who cares, right?
I said, yep. I said, that's true. But guess what? I said, right about now, I already look like a crackhead with no money. I'd rather look like a crackhead with some money.
Right.
That's a good point. So he said, okay, well, if you get 50 customers, I'll do it with you. I said, okay, deal. Okay. I woke up the next morning about 7 in the morning to 11 p.m. at night, walking pretty much the entire Brooklyn.
This is a
Knocking on
great story,
every
you know.
door.
We got to write a book together someday about your life story.
We
So,
would love
and
to.
you're just resilient, right? I mean, just totally won't take no for an answer. You're calling every store in town, right?
Knocking on doors. Hi, my name is Pierre. We have a service that specializes in glass cleaning. We'll do it for X, Y, and Z. That same day, I had 72 stores agree for me to clean their glass.
And you notice you came to them, you say, we specialize in glass cleaning. You haven't done any yet.
I know, none yet.
You can't say we're a startup business. We don't have any customers. Would you be our first? You don't say that.
No, I went in and said, we specialize in glass cleaning. This is what we do.
Exactly.
And after that same day, I went home to my little sister. I remember how bad it was, my little sister. And I borrowed $80 from her. I said, sister, let me borrow $80. She gave me $80 because I already did the math.
Now, how did your little sister have $80? Just from savings from holidays or whatever?
Yeah, she always worked like little summer jobs, you know, stuff like that. So she gave me the $80. But the reason I asked for exactly $80 is because I already did the math. How much the brush is gonna cost me? How much the sponge is gonna cost me?
The stuff to clean the windows.
The stuff to clean the windows. So she gave me the $80. Went to Home Depot, bought a little tool.
It's a business loan.
Hey, pretty much. You know what? Right. And I'll tell you how happy she was. So when she gave me the money, went to Home Depot, got all the stuff. Me and my friend, we put on some uniform, made it look like a real official business.
Yeah.
And we went off to the races. And even when we was doing that, also, again, I was still ashamed, right? It was like 90 degrees outside. I was doing it with a hat on, with a hoodie on, just so people won't see my face. And as we started getting more customers and start making more money and starting getting a little comfortable, in 3 months, we made $62,000 cleaning.
Nice.
I had all the Metro PCS stores, the T-Mobile stores. I even had some banks. I even had some dental offices. It really had a real business. It kind of looked like a franchise. And what I did also that was smart was me and another friend ended up joining us. It was 3 of us doing it. I bought these lime.
Because you had so many customers, right? You needed more help.
Correct. So I bought these lime green shirt that we all look like uniform. So the reason I did that, I said, okay, since these streets have a lot of stores on them, if we clean in one store,
they want them to see you, right?
They see it.
Yeah.
They will walk up to us and say, hey, look, you come in and do our glass as well. So that really worked pretty well. So every street that we were cleaning on, we ended up getting at least 4 or 5 customers every day because they would see the work that we're doing.
That's right. And that's why you picked a really bright color, right?
Yes. And then they came and said, hey, look, can you clean my glass after? Then pretty much kind of get them to become a customer. But when we was doing that, once again, I said, I'm not going back to trucking. I said, this is a lot more easier. I'm going to turn this into a multi-billion-dollar business. Okay. I was lying to myself.
But you weren't going to do the windows anymore. You were going to hire people to do the windows. You'd run the business, right?
I was going to hire people to run the windows. And I was even thinking about, how do I get contract with those big towers in the city? What type of equipment I'm going to need to start, to really take it to the next level.
Yeah.
But when we really started making money, guess what? I went right back into trucking. I started a first company called Mac Transport Staffing, and that was a staffing agency. And the reason I started the staffing agency, it was because I realized truckers are always looking for a company that can provide some level of flexibility, treat them like a human being as opposed to being treated as a commodity.
Right. There was a gap in the industry where nobody was taking care of these guys and making it easier on them, helping them make money. Okay. Yep. Now, what made you pivot? You're like, oh, we're going to clean windows for the rest of my life. I'm going to build this business. I'm going to be cleaning the Javits Center. What made you pivot back to trucking?
That problem that I was experiencing trucking, I'm like, okay,
a problem presented itself, and you're like, I can solve this and make money. You went back.
The problem was always there, even when I was a driver. Okay. But I just didn't know how to go about.
You thought of a way to solve the problem. I got it. Okay, so that was always in the back of your mind. You're really like, I got to figure this out. Okay.
Yes, and also for trucking companies, I know how hard it was for them to find great qualified talent. So I said, well, what if I start the same mindset that I had when I was starting cleaning windows? I said, well, what if I start a company where I hire the drivers, groom them, and then outsource them back to the trucking companies? How would that work? I launched the company in December 2015. First month, I did $37K in revenue. The next year, I did $786K in revenue. And the year after, I did $1.2 million in revenue, right?
And this was placing drivers permanently at the trucking companies?
No, it wasn't permanently at the trucking companies. I was running that business on a spreadsheet. What I did was pretty much I had a pool of drivers, and I had a pool of trucking companies. And I know trucking companies always have last minute needs. Either their drivers call out, or there's a spike in the quarter. They need more drivers to to participate in those opportunities. But they just didn't know how, or those things didn't really exist. So I said, okay, well, I built it on a spreadsheet where I had a pool of drivers and I had a pool of customers. And once a call come in, I would look on the spreadsheet to see who's available.
I see. So you were filling the need. So the trucking company doesn't have to do that and call the truckers all around and say, hey, Pierre, can you do this? Mitch, can you do this? Bob, can you do this? You would do that for them.
I would do that. And that was the same way I went to every trucking company and sold myself again and said, hey, look, we have a service that can give you drivers on demand whenever there's a call.
Right.
I said, if anything, put me to the test. And I could be honest with you.
And nobody else was doing this? Like there was
other staffing companies, staffing agencies probably, but I don't think they took the approach that I took.
Okay.
It was much more like permanent placement for 3 months and then until that company hired a driver. But for me, it was just I wanted to give that trucking company the peace of mind of always knowing whenever there's a need, I can be there for them.
Right, because they didn't all necessarily need full-time drivers, right?
No, exactly. So I said, you know what? Put me to the test. I'm here. If you have a call, I don't care if it's 3, 4 in the morning, let me know. I'll get some drivers. And don't mind you, at the time I was going to these companies, I had 0 drivers. And I had 2 customers that said, okay, great. And
so who cares, right? You'll find them. You're relentless.
Man, they both used to call me at 3 in the morning. Hey, we have a driver that called out. Can you get us a driver? Guess what? At that time, I didn't have no driver.
You say yes anyway.
Yep, I would, because I was the one getting up at 3 in the morning and showing up at the customer and getting the job done.
Right.
So as more I was driving, the more I started really building the driver pool and other drivers. Even when I was working at Performance Food Group, I used to always kind of get all the drivers together to say, hey, guys, let's start a company, run by drivers. And we'll pretty much lease ourselves to other trucking companies as opposed to being a full-time to one company. A lot of those drivers, they was a little afraid. People have mortgages, they have family.
Right, they want steady, they want a job or whatever, take them away from a job until they lose their job.
Exactly. And
I think that's a really good, Pierre. I think that's a really good lesson for people when it comes to getting things done, because I think let's say you have an invitations company and you get a call for a major event and they need 10,000 invitations and you've never done that many in your life. You don't even have the staff. You say yes. And you figure it out. You don't pass up business because that's what drives everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You can have the greatest ideas in the world. You don't have customers. You forget about it. So yeah, I think that's fantastic. Okay. So now so I see. So it's hard to lure a guy away when he feels like he's got permanent employment and he's got stability until the trucking company has some financial issue and they're cutting back. And next thing you know, he's calling you saying, hey, Pierre, can you get me work?
Absolutely. And with that, once again, I was trying to get the drivers to really understand what we was trying to build. I wanted to build a driver-centric company, but none of the drivers was kind of afraid. But the reality was, after 6 months of running that business, 90% of my drivers was drivers that was at that other company. They became my employees. And I realized that didn't really resonate well with them because they felt like, wow, this guy used to be a driver just like us, but now this guy is cutting our check. Some drivers really didn't like that. But for me, it was
maybe they should get off their ass and start their own companies, but
absolutely.
They won't.
But I say, hey, look, I told you guys, let's do this business together. Nobody wanted to do it. Everybody was comfortable. I took the leap of faith and resigned from that company.
You took all the risk.
Absolutely.
That's why you get the rewards. Now, who owned the truck? Where were the trucks coming from?
The trucks was coming from the trucking companies, the customers.
Okay, they had the trucks. They just need the drivers to use them.
The drivers, absolutely. Okay. So after I made on that second year when we did 1.2 million, also again that goes back to the big dream that I've had of on one day of owning a big fleet of trucking, owning my own trucking company. So I took that proceed and I started a trucking company. Okay. I started with 3 trucks and grew that business to 16 trucks in 6 months. And also did 1.2 million.
Where you would contract with companies that didn't want to have their own fleet of trucks.
Yes.
So that was use your trucking services. Got it.
So I started contracting with shippers, with some Amazon, and pretty much grow that business pretty fast. And I also had an additional 10 owner-operators working with me as well. So I had a total of 26 trucks that I was running.
That we were kind of partnering together.
Yes. But what was crazy about it, I was running those 2 businesses simultaneously by myself. I was running a staffing agency.
Your one-man show.
Drivers, yep. And then the trucking company with 26 trucks and 26 drivers. You could imagine a burnout.
Did you have office staff? Nothing?
Nothing. I was the driver, the supervisor, the sales.
That's craziness.
I was everything in that company. And eventually I really started feeling a burnout, right? And I remember days that I used to really cry in my yard, begging God, hey, where can I find someone that truly understands what it is I'm trying to build that can come in and join this thing with me?
Right. No, you got to build the personnel staff. The people is what makes the business, right?
Absolutely. And don't want to sound like I'm a victim of circumstances. And 2017, my son was born with Down syndrome, right? And that really started to affect me personally, financially, emotionally. I was all over the place, knowing that he was going to be born with Down syndrome, knowing that he has to go through multiple heart surgeries. That really started affecting me. I kind of fell into this pity mindset where I started feeling sorry for myself, started feeling sorry for my son, and even questioning God and saying, God, why me? Like, I've started those businesses. I've given people opportunity.
But from what you tell me, that doesn't sound like you normally.
Yeah. So yeah, so that was really a bad, I don't know, like never again I will feel bad for myself or feel bad for my son, because I
Right.
realized if it is to be, it's up to me. No
Yeah,
one is
everything's a
out
blessing. Now your
anything.
son's good. He's
Have to.
functional and everything.
Yeah, he's good. But when he was going through surgery, things was really, really bad for me. He did the first surgery in March 2018. That went good. But in May 2018, that he started having some internal bleeding. He has to be rushed right back again to the hospital.
So he's little. This is only
Yeah,
two
very
years.
little. This is only 3 months old now,
So he's
right?
a couple of years old now.
Yeah, he's going on 3 now. So
Okay.
this November he'll be turning 3, and that really started affecting me, man. I was all over the place, and my mother came in town to visit my son. My mother.
You're still running the trucking company at this point?
I was still running it, but things was really falling apart. Like
Right,
really,
because you can only do so much yourself, right?
correct. I couldn't dispatch my drivers. Drivers calling me every day, say, Pierre, man, I want to work. You know, I don't want to go anywhere else. I'd rather work for this company. What's going on? How can I help?
Right.
And one night I said, you know what? Let me just put a dinner party together for all my drivers, and let me explain to them what's going on in my life. So I sat down and explained to them. I said, look, guys, I'm going through some stuff with my family. You know, it's very tough for me. Just bear with me. You guys can go ahead. I'll give you some recommendation. You can find other jobs elsewhere. Once I get back, I will call you guys back. Everybody was like, no, man, we don't want to go work anywhere else. Tell us what we need to do. We'll run
To help you.
for you. Yes. And I realized myself that I couldn't give truckers to run my business simply because they didn't understand the business side of trucking. So I said, no worries about it. From that night, I was on my way home in Brooklyn. I stopped at this restaurant to get some food for my mother, and I was brutally attacked from an attempt carjack and robbery. And I had my skull cracked. I don't know if you can see a line here.
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
And my forehead right here is a titanium plate, so it's not even my real forehead. And that really put me in the hospital. And I'm in Kings County, and my son is in downstate, 2 hospitals across the street from each other. And now we both pretty much fighting for our lives. My family, they didn't think I was gonna make it. The doctors telling my family this is really bad. Same thing with my son. They don't know what's going on. You know, it's a possibility.
It was just a freak thing. You're just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Wrong place, wrong time, getting that food. And I remember all these things, man. And when I finally kind of like gained consciousness again, after my surgery and everything, I remember waking up in a lot of pain. And this is another part of my story I really don't tell. Like, it was that I really wanted to get out of the hospital to go get back those people that did that to me. I was in a lot of pain.
You're bitter. You're angry about it.
Yes. And that's when I also realized, as us, you know, young black men that lives in certain communities, we are very reactive, right? And I said to myself, okay, if I go out there and
understandable
do bad, what does that mean? Number one, I run the risk of getting killed. I run the risk of getting arrested. Now my children are gonna grow up without a dad, right? So I said, no, I'm not gonna react this way. I said, God, please get me out this hospital alive.
Especially as a black man, unfortunately, they give you less of a chance, and as a white guy, they give me more of a chance, and it's all wrong. But it's reality. It sucks.
Yes, but I didn't want to be reactive. I said, this is a time for me to think, right? And I said, you know what? I'm not gonna do anything. I have to build something. I have to do something. And when I saw how hard my son was fighting, I said, look, man, if this kid can fight this hard at 3 months old, I said, there's no way I'm giving up. I said, God, please get me out this hospital alive. I will build a team. I will add technology to build a sustainable, successful tech company. And by the grace of God, 12 days later, I came out the hospital and hit the ground running, trying to build Fleeting, right? Didn't have a team again.
It wasn't even called, was that the name of the company before? Or?
Nope, it was called, this is pretty much new company, Fleeting. So I said, I wanted to build a tech company. And the reason why building a tech company was so important to me, because I was seeing companies like the Convoy, you know, coming out around that time, building technology, which is a digital broker firm. But I said, okay, these companies are great, but they're not speaking directly to the driver's pain point. They're speaking to the shipper's pain point to help the shippers move their product a lot more efficient. But there was nothing that was really speaking about the driver's pain point, the small trucking company's pain point.
Right.
I said, you know what? Maybe I have to build this thing. So once I prayed, God, let me get out of here alive, I hit that ground running and really start going to pitch competition.
How long were you in the hospital for after
I was in the hospital for 12 days. As bad as it was.
That was it? 12 days?
12 days. And still to this day,
I thought you were going to tell me you were in a coma for 7 months or something. Holy shit.
And that's the thing. The doctors was pretty shocked. He said, Pierre, I don't know what you're praying to. I don't know who your God is.
I think you're strong-willed. I think that's why. Yeah.
Even the day that I was leaving the hospital, he took a walk with me down the hallway. He said, Pierre, let's take a walk. Let me show you something. He showed me it was maybe about 15 rooms of patients in there that had head trauma. He said, look, Pierre, everyone in here had less of an impact than you did.
And they're still here.
They can't figure it out. He said, for you to be walking out here alive, not on a stretcher, not on a crutch, I don't know who your God is. Whoever your God is, keep praying to it, right?
Right.
And even me myself, once again, I think it was a lesson God was trying to teach me. I think God was really trying to show me patience. He was teaching me how to be understanding, how to truly see things for what they are and not go crazy. And I came out the hospital, man. Once again, I just
Holy shit.
kind of hit the ground running. And that whole entire year, I came out in almost end of May 2018, literally 2-3 days after I got home. And still, people really, like, my mother was looking at me like I was crazy. She said, son, you need to really sit down. The doctor told me I had to be in rest for a year.
Right.
Before I do anything. And I remember even when in the hospital, they was bringing paperwork for me to fill. They said, Pierre, you approved for disability for life. You don't have to work anymore, man. I'll rip those papers apart. I said, look,
right.
I'm not
Well, how much are you going to make on disability for life?
Absolutely.
You're going to be a cripple for it. Yeah.
Exactly. And I said, I'm not crippled.
You're not accepting that.
No way. I was not buying. I'm a seller, man, not a buyer, right?
You know, Pierre, we take 1,000 people, well, 999 people plus you, and we put them through everything that you're telling me you went through, and every single one of them doesn't make it through except you. People are not that resilient. People say, how much can they, they say, uncle, that how much can they take?
Yes.
And people knock you down and you don't, maybe it takes you a little while to get your head about yourself, but you're like, I don't care. I'm going to get back up. And I think you got to write a book someday. You got to promise me that someday you're going to write your story because it's motivational. I mean, this is the whole talking about it's motivational, but yeah, I mean, it's a great story and you could probably end up on a speaking tour to motivate people about what you
Absolutely.
were through.
And I think that's the reason why I went through that experience. Also, maybe, there's somebody out here that may be struggling. There's somebody out here that might be on the last straw, ready to quit, ready to jump off the building. And I want to tell them, like, man, listen, look, there is life, man. Like,
there's always light at the end of the tunnel, right?
Absolutely. You just have to keep pushing. And one thing I've learned is if you're going to fall on your back, because you can always look up and pull yourself up, right?
Yeah, and you know what? I think that it's the irony of when things are really bad. Like when things are really bad, the sun will shine another day. Things will get better. It's the other way around. When things are great, you're just waiting for somebody to hit you over the head with a 2x4 and knock you down. So it works both ways,
That's what I always say, man. If you're going through hell, run through hell. Don't walk. Run through that sucker and just get out of it.
I mean, at this point, what else could happen in your life that you say, oh, that's too much? Probably nothing. At this point, right?
Nothing, to be honest with you.
Right.
God give me the second chance. I don't take it for granted. I think He gives me for a real purpose. And I want to leave a legacy behind because of that. I don't think, once again, I'm not taking, breathing here, sitting and talking to you is just another.
It's a gift, right?
Because I know what that darkness looked like. I know what it was like being in the hospital. Didn't know if I was going to make it or not. And all I keep hearing that night was that beep, beep. I still have that little sound in my head. And that little sound is another reason why I won't give up. Because whenever things get hard again, I hear that same little beep in my head.
Right.
So, no, I can pull through. I will get through this. So that's just kind of, kept me going, man. And the entire year, pitching, didn't have a team, didn't have no product. It was just an idea on a piece of napkin, pretty much, right? Just wanted to build technology. I don't have a technical background. I didn't go to Ivy League school, but I was part of trucking for 17 years.
Yeah, you knew that business.
Absolutely. And I know that somebody had to bring the solution to market. And luckily in 2019, we got accepted by Quake Capital Accelerator, and they invested $250,000 pretty much in the idea, right?
Where are they located?
They're located in New York.
Okay.
And invested in the company. And from there, really started really early building the early teams. Met my first co-founder very early on was Paul. Paul was very, very hands-on. Paul was running with a company called Upright that helped young startups, build their pitch deck and, go-to-market strategy.
Right.
And
but now you're not a kid on the street running a trucking company. Now you're involved in the tech industry and you're in those circles with venture capitals and angels, and you got into a great world.
Absolutely. Different circles.
People think differently. They build value. They're looking to, it's a different kind of thing. But that was fleeting, right? It's still fleeting, same company, right?
Today, yes, still fleeting today. And Paul, I was paying Paul to kind of help, and I ran out of money working with Paul. And Paul really kind of, like the solution that I was talking to Paul about really resonated with him. Paul eventually quit that company and joined me full time and become my co-founder and COO, right?
Nice.
And also because of Paul, I think we got into the accelerator because he worked days in and days out to build a hell of a pitch deck, kind of every interview that I was doing, because there was a lot of questions that I was being asked that I didn't know how to answer those questions. We talking about the world, right? So I really started going to a lot of pitch competition, and this is where I started getting my confidence. Really, at first I was a loser for every pitch competition that I went into.
Good. One closer to the one that you win, right?
Man, listen, I went through so many pitch competition and lost and played myself, but
But
that
you
was
got a ton of experience, right?
absolutely. It was
Yeah.
getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, putting myself out there, let people rip me apart and ask me questions. And I
Right.
would go back and do
It's
my
all a growing
research and
experience,
come
right?
back. That's all it was. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
growing pains. And after that, I went on a winning streak, man. I think to date, I've already won over $250,000 in pitch competition from
Nice.
learning everything.
Yeah, but you went in with the attitude, not like I'm going to win this thing and then you're devastated. You went in with the attitude like I'm here to learn, tear me apart, make it hard. I want to be good. And you, with that attitude, you're just going to soar, right?
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
that's one thing I would recommend with any tech entrepreneurs. You know, you want to
Get out there, get involved, and get
put
people
yourself
tearing you
out there.
apart. Right.
Put yourself out there. Get
Right.
comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Good advice.
Because building a tech company is not a race, man. It's a marathon. You understand? There's different steps that
Right.
you have to go through, and you have to understand that. Even for me, I didn't know that process until I got into that myself. And I know there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there that have great ideas that want to get into the tech space. And I would tell them, put yourself out there. Hurry up and fail.
Well, you
Right?
have to, because you know what? This guy who joined you and the people that put money into you and the accelerator that accepted you, they're investing in you. They're not investing in the company, because the company's nothing without a guy like you. So I tell people they're going to invest in you at the beginning, because there is no company.
Yep.
It might be a great idea, but if they don't think you can execute it and you're, just relentless, it's not going to go anywhere. They don't want to run the company.
Not at all. Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
and man, look, I really put myself out there and really started and really getting good at pitching. And
that was when did you get accepted to the accelerator? When was that?
I got accelerated January 2019, but the whole year of 2018, it was just going a straight pitch competition. It's another part of a story that I don't say. I remember December 2018,
Okay.
kind of really spent my last dollar on really trying to build Fleeting. And I remember Christmas, I was at home with my 3 children. I have 2 boys and a girl, and I couldn't even buy them a gift from a Family Dollar store.
Yeah, no money
Really,
left.
nothing at all. And I remember sitting in the bed crying with them. I said, hey, look, don't worry. Like, this is how things are. And my daughter,
Right.
she was the only one that understood. I said, I promise you, baby. I said, by next year, I said, we won't have this problem. And what was funny, in 2019, December 2019, the same Christmas day, I won a pitch competition for $100,000.
There you go.
So that is like kind of speaking into
Money mindset.
Absolutely. Spoke everything into existence. And from there, man, really, really hit the ground running, like built a team. We launched our technology in July 2019. And to date, we've done 1.3 million in revenue with a 20% take rate. It was really tough at first, really getting customers.
Yeah, because you got to get traction, right? People got to believe in your idea. They got to see that it works. Your systems, you run into problems as you start putting people into the system, right?
Yes. And one thing I think I realized that really worked for me early on, I didn't take a technology approach when I'm speaking to my customers, because I realized trucking is so outdated, right? And it's like they're so operating in a very old school way.
Right.
You speaking to a trucking company, you can't show them that you can relate to their pain point or even understand their pain
you talk tech language and they're going to lose. You're going to lose them.
You're going to lose them. Exactly.
Yeah.
So it was for me, I was still taking the talk, the trucker language, something
right.
that they understand.
Well, you knew that world.
Spoke exactly about their pain. And the first customer we had, which is still one of our biggest customers, Better Way Transportation Logistics, and they really decided to give us a pilot. And they was taking about 3 drivers from us every day. Now they're doing at least 15 to 20 drivers per day that requested from the platform. Yeah. And we're still growing. And I don't even think we have to touch the surface yet, right?
No, it's a big industry. Trucking's not going anywhere.
No way. I mean,
look, I even say that someday when trucks are, let's say, autonomous almost, right? They're still going to need somebody. It can't run itself and unload itself. So you still, even if the trucker can sleep and the truck can keep driving, you're still going to need a guy in the cab.
I say that all the time. Now, if truckers' job was just driving, yes, then it would be easily to be destructive, right?
Right.
But truckers do more than just driving.
Right.
You understand? Like you said, truckers have to go inside and speak to the shippers, make sure that they're getting the right product into the truck, make sure they count everything that's being loaded into the truck. And sometimes some shippers may ask them, hey, look, move from this trailer to this door to another door. There's so much truckers do that autonomous is not just going to come and disrupt truckers. And even so, just like you said, I think our entire infrastructure needs to change in order to support autonomous, right? And I don't think we're there yet. Now, on the highways, I can see there's different things that they're building that can make that process a lot more easier on the highway. But what happened when we get into the last miles? What happened when we get into the inner cities, right? But also another risk that we don't talk about is a truck, we're talking about 80,000 pounds hauling on a highway. I mean, is the public really ready to see an 80,000 pound truck on a highway with no drivers behind it?
I'm not ready for that.
And
They
that's
tried that out already, and some people died with cars.
cars, exactly. And
I mean,
another
some of these states have what, 3? They don't allow them in New Jersey, but triples, right?
triples, exactly. Jersey don't allow them. Yeah, in the Midwest, they are allowed triple trailers. Yes, they're
Well,
not.
we're too densely populated. Do they allow doubles in New Jersey?
Yes, they allow doubles in Jersey. I used to hold doubles for XPO when I started with them.
Well, that takes a lot of skill too. It's more than just
Absolutely.
driving a truck, right?
Skill, pretty much. And
It's like driving a train without tracks to keep you in line.
trust me. And then the next thing that I did that was very dangerous when I was on the operator was pretty much I was hauling fuel, jet fuel. I used to drive tankers.
Oh,
so
you're driving tankers?
Tankers, yeah, and that was the most dangerous thing.
And were they multiple tankers or one? They don't. Do they?
I didn't hold double.
No, they don't do that. Okay.
One tankers, but I had an account from Texas. I was holding jet fuel from Texas to Jacksonville, New Jersey, and jet fuel is one of the most flammable liquid you can hold.
Yeah.
And now let's get back again to the autonomous.
So you have an accident, the whole thing could blow up. Right?
Oh man, not only just blow up, you could wipe out a whole city with a tanker. You understand? And that's how dangerous it is. And that's what I want to get back again to the safety components of hauling autonomous truck. Now, we live in a world where America has so much enemies across the world, right?
Right.
Big companies like TransUnion, Equifax is getting hacked. What makes you think an autonomous truck hauling jet fuel won't get hacked and drive it into a city?
You can hack a truck now, right? Because it's got electronics in it and stuff.
Absolutely. So to me,
see that stuff on TV. People think it's like TV, but it's based on real. Let me ask you a question though, because I want to make sure I understand what fleeting is and what its platform is. You're basically connecting the drivers who are looking for jobs with the companies that need drivers but don't want to, hire them full time on their payroll, right?
No, it's not even that. So what becomes the bigger problem for trucking companies is that they can hire truckers, but they can't retain them. Trucking companies are spending between $5 to $10K to hire a CDL driver that will potentially quit in 30 to 90 days. So
why would he quit in 30 to 90 days?
That's because truck drivers are always looking for the next best opportunity. That have this thing that I say, truckers is full-time truckers and part-time applicants. Although they have a full-time job, they're always looking for the next best opportunity, whether it's a company that gives some level of flexibility, pay more money, or treat them like a human being as opposed to being treated as a
So they're always looking to jump ship.
They're always looking for exactly. And that right here is a real cost that's affecting a lot of trucking companies. Don't mind you, they're dealing with high insurance costs, right? And then the driver turnover is another problem. Trucking companies are spending thousands, hundreds of thousands in their assets in their truck, paying insurance for maintenance. And too often those trucks are underutilized. And them not having access to qualified drivers really affect their bottom line.
Right.
So what fleeting is the platform that gives those trucking companies that peace of mind that they can always have a driver to keep in their truck 24/7, 365.
Even though it's not necessarily the same person all the time.
Absolutely, but they have the ability to tap into that pool to keep those running. And at the same token, for the drivers, our platform gives them the full ability to create their own schedule, work on their term, on a company that they like, that pays more money. Instead of a driver doing 30 days on the road and only coming home to see his family for 2 days, now that driver can break out his week. He can say, okay, well, I'll go out for 3 days.
And he can plan his week.
And then go back to exactly.
And you pay better than most of these trucking companies do?
Yes, we do. Pretty much. Our drivers working 3 days. Our drivers do $1,100, right? Man, most company, a driver works 6 days and probably making $1,000. So for
it's
us,
less than half they're making.
Absolutely. So for us, it's not only giving the driver more money. When you talk to drivers, it's not only more money that they want. Drivers really want to be treated like a human being.
Of course.
Drivers want that flexibility.
They're human beings too, right?
And let's look what's happening in our world today. When you talk about the Ubers, the gig economy, what's happening is every truck driver is seeing everything is turning into gig economy. But for them, there's nothing that speak directly to their industry. So there's a lot of truck drivers that was actually leaving trucking to go drive Uber because Uber gives them that flexibility, or Lyft gives them that flexibility. And that right here is also creating a bigger problem in trucking, right? The average age of a truck driver is 54 years old. The pipeline of new entrants is really drying out. And the reason for that is we live in an age where everyone wants everything like this fast.
Right.
Everybody wants flexibility. So now when we have a pipeline of drivers drying out, who do you think that affect? That affect us, the consumers. Because when we don't have no drivers to move our goods, that drive the cost of any goods to go up. If we don't have drivers, that bottle of water we used to pay $1 for, it becomes $5 because the shortage of drivers. And that's another thing to me that I talk about with fleeting is that coming from those communities that I've came from, I've been hurt, right, brutally attacked, and trucking is short 200,000 drivers. And I'm saying to myself, this is crazy. How can an industry short 200,000 drivers, but at the same time, we have communities where there's young men and young women looking for opportunities, but they just don't know which way to go. And for me,
Right.
how can Fleeting bridge that gap and bring those new generation of young men and women into trucking? But first, we have to destigmatize trucking, because no one wants to be a truck driver anymore, because they know if they become a trucker, they have to give up their way of life. They have to give up their social life. They have to give up sleeping on their bed. So no one wants to become truckers anymore. So this is why that pipeline is dry.
But they need to make money. They need a career. They need.
Absolutely. So this is why Fleeting is doing, not only that we want to teach them how to become a truck driver, but we also are giving them a career path, right? From being a driver to becoming an owner operator to also eventually own their own fleet of truck, at least own 2-3 trucks and receive real money.
So your goal with working with the guys, you want to get him up to the point where he owns his own truck, and then you can
he still be our customer. Not only we giving them jobs, we help them keep drivers in their trucks 365, 24/7.
Oh, right, because he could become the guy with the logistics company. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
And if you look at it, 90% of supply chain are made up with the little guys with 3 to 6 trucks. It's not those big companies that make trucking. It's the little small guys that make trucking. But they have so many challenges for them. And once again, insurance, dealing with brokers, it's very hard for these guys to improve their bottom line.
So you deal with all that stuff for them.
Yes, we're creating a new ecosystem of truckers. We want to build, how you call this? Is pretty much we want to build the first virtual trucking company where we're allowing those drivers to own their own truck. And even you, Mitchell, you can own a truck, call it Mitchell Trucking LLC.
And I don't have to be behind the wheel, right?
You don't have to be behind the wheel. You don't have to worry about hiring drivers. You don't have to worry about calling dispatchers or calling brokers to find loads. Fleeting take care of all of that for you and let you receive passive income in that trucking. And the way we think about it again is us consumers is the one that makes supply chain goes around. How about we become investors while everyone is purchasing and consuming everything? You making money. Your friend order a furniture set, they order a bedroom set. Guess what?
Right.
They have a trucking company to deliver it. What if your trucking company was doing that delivery and you receive that passive income? So that's what Fleeting is.
So
really
you could create a company where people invest in the company, and that company is run by you and other people and has its trucks, and you just get a dividend as an owner of the company.
As the owner of that truck, you get some money as well. And I think for us the biggest misconception in trucking is that, only big corporations like, the FedEx, the UPS of the world, the Werners, that own larger fleets. So a lot of times that prevents people from getting into trucking. But I'm here to say, hey, look, 90% of trucking are made up with the guy that own 1 or 2 trucks. So we all have the opportunity to get into trucking.
Yeah, it's a small business industry.
Absolutely. And another thing what drivers really appreciate with working in a small business is that when they're working for a bigger corporation, they might get those perks, the benefits, the 401k, but they're nothing but a number on a spreadsheet, right? Yeah, anything happen, they get fired, move on to the next one.
Get another pandemic and shuts things down, they're going to get laid off.
That's right. But when a driver works for another person, if I work for you, you own 2 trucks, you're not a corporation. The way you treat me is totally different on how I will be treated if I work for a corporation, because the level of empathy will be there. Because now I can have a relationship with you. I could call you Mitch and say, hey, Mitch, my daughter's going through something, my family's going through something. Right,
of course.
You will understand. You will
look at large corporations. Amazon has a lot of problems with its employees because it's so big.
Yes.
There's no human, they don't treat employees like people matter, because they got so many other things to worry about. And then decisions are made at the top and it affects people at the bottom, and they feel like, well, you don't care about me.
Absolutely. And the reality is, once again, is Amazon still has to answer to their shareholders, right? They have to make sure that they keep their bottom line tight so that the investors can also get the benefits. But when you look at the people that's actually doing the work every day, they reap none of those benefits. Right. So for us, this is why we also launched, I don't know if I told you this, but to date, we've raised $1.8 million from investors. Recently, I just made history being the first Black man to raise over $1 million on a crowdfunding platform. And the reason we launched—
And these are people now investors in Fleeting, or is it as a separate company?
No, those are people are investors in Fleeting.
Nice.
And the reason I did the crowdfunding, it was because, again, I said to myself, when you look at those companies like the Amazon, the Convoys, the Uber Freight, the Transfix, I don't see none of these companies creating a program that let drivers invest in that company and let the drivers become shareholders. Right. So for me, I said, well, if this company is going to be run by drivers, the success of this company depends on drivers. I want drivers to become shareholders in this company. So this is why I opened up a crowdfunding, because—
You did it through crowdfunding? You raised over $1 million just through crowdfunding? It wasn't angels or VCs or anything like that?
It was, it was through crowdfunding. It was regular individuals, human beings that have jobs that really saw the opportunity to invest in it. So
what platform was that on?
That was on Republic.
And was that a record for them?
Yes, that was a record for me, pretty much, for them and for me as well, being the first Black man to actually done that. And
nice.
And once again, that goes back again.
I mean, black, white, purple, blue. I can't imagine many people raising over $1 million of crowdfunding.
Yes, and it's very tough to raise over $1 million on crowdfunding because, like I said, people really want to know what is it that you're building.
Right.
Where you're going to take the mission and answering thousands of questions from non-traditional investors. Those are people. Once again, those are average citizens, American citizens.
Right.
That's for the opportunity, and I think I'm very grateful for that because although we was kind of living through this pandemic, through all this racial crisis that we've been seeing, actually, that's what gives me another sense of optimistic, right? Because I've seen that with all this thing that's happening in this world today, we do have people that want to move forward in harmony. We do have people that want to move forward in love. And those people was one of my biggest supporters. Once again, we did it for drivers so drivers can invest. We do have a lot of drivers that invested into the crowdfunding, but majority of them was regular consumers, regular Americans.
So what did you do with the money? Did you buy new trucks? You invented in technology? What did you do?
Yeah, no, we just actually closed that round just a couple of weeks ago. So
so you're just starting to.
Yeah, so what we're going to do with that money, we're really thinking we're really going to ramp up. We want to do some more driver acquisition, more customer acquisition. We want to build a more robust product to actually start scaling our business. So I think that was a great reach, man. Really appreciate it. Been great, very grateful. But for us, again, we wanted to give truckers an opportunity to become shareholders in a company that they would move forward. So that's why we did the crowdfunding.
Yeah, because you're making decisions as if people matter. And I think people appreciate that. And they'll follow you and they'll join you and they will go on your journey if they think you care about them, because you do.
Absolutely.
You've been there.
And I've been part of that problem. Another thing was my divorce was because I was always on the road, never have time for my family. And I know that millions of truckers going through that every day. And once again, I don't think I'll be.
It's got to tear up marriages, right? I mean,
oh man, tell me about it. I would
just even being away. Your wife gets lonely, whatever, and she goes look somewhere else. I mean, that's what happens, right?
And be mad at her, right? And that's we have this thing that us truckers, we say to each other every time we're on the road, on speaking on the CB radio, say, hey, driver, how long you been away from home? Driver be like, hey, look, I've been away from home 2-3 weeks. It's like, well, we know the milkman is delivering the milk to the back door.
Yeah, right. CB radio. I used to have a CB radio when we were young. We used to go on family trips and talk to the truckers and stuff.
Yep. And that's what we talk about. We all relate to that same struggle. Truckers, you hear truckers on the CB radio talking about, I got home and I caught the mailman through the back door, at my house. It's a reality. It's a real thing for truckers being away from home. And
not really the milkman. They don't deliver anymore, but it was somebody else.
But it's a mailman now.
Right. It's the mailman.
But that is one of the problems that the
reality of the trucking life. Yeah.
Yes. And for me, I would not be able to live with myself if I don't solve this problem. Once again, I don't have an Ivy League background. I'm not super tech. I'm not the super tech guy, but I've been part of that problem. And I've seen
with this platform, my understanding is they don't have to be away, right? They could break it up and do it differently. They don't have to be away for 3-4 weeks on the road.
Absolutely. And even if they do want to do a little further, what drivers can now do, pretty soon we're launching a feature where if I'm a driver, you a driver, I can ping you and say, hey, Mitchell, do you want to do this run with me to California? So now we offering shippers expedited services by getting 2 drivers on a truck to do the load together. So now while one is driving, the other one is sleeping.
It's like
so
Uber
drivers
Pool.
are well rested. Huh? I'm sorry?
Like Uber Pool.
Like Uber Pool, exactly. So now, exactly. Truckers can ping another trucker and say, hey, let's do this load together,
Nice.
But also, too, the opportunity that trucking has to offer, all the challenges that we talk about, trucking is, if you're really a trucker, you really get to see what America has to offer. You really get to see the beauty of America. And I think
that's what attracted you to it originally.
Absolutely. So I think by bringing that out and show people, they get to visit the entire country and just kind of step out of their community for 1 second to see what America has to offer. I think that's something that will really resonate to people, especially the millennials, that's coming in looking for new opportunity. Could you just imagine some guy that play a guitar on a weekend and be a trucker 3 days a week, right? And still being able to kind of do the things that he enjoy with his family. So for us, we don't want trucking to feel like working again. Trucking has to feel like you can actually exploring the country and making money while you're doing it.
Right. Well, Pierre, I appreciate you spending all this time with me, and you've come a long way, but it sounds to me like your journey's like just getting started. I mean, you're very at the early age, and I'm going to be a friend with you and stay with you and follow you and cheer you on and be like, I knew him when he was on my early podcast in the fledgling days. But I do appreciate it all the time and sharing your stories and being open about everything that can motivate a lot of people. So I thank you very much.
No, I thank you for having me, man. I think once again, one thing I've learned is by me keeping this story to myself, I'm not doing the world any good. I think that's being selfish. So
Good point.
I've got comfortable. I'm getting comfortable with, sharing my story because keeping that to myself, I don't think it does anyone any good. If I put myself out there and share my story, because once again, who's out there that's on the last brink ready to give up and call it quit?
Right.
Suicide.
Well, it's wisdom and words to live by. So I can't thank you enough.
Thank you, man.
All right.
Really appreciate it.